So far, we've explored how HTML5 allows us to describe the contents of our documents in more meaningful ways. In this exercise, we're going to focus on how HTML5 also allows us to define the relationships between pages and the resources and the content that they link to. By using the rel attribute on links, anchors, and area elements, you can create sites that provide additional information about linked resources and even influence how user agents handle them. So before we put this into practice, let's jump out to the specification for just one moment. So here I am in the HTML5 specification, and I have browsed to section 4.8.1, links created by the A and area elements. Now, the rel attribute can be used by anchor elements, the A elements, area elements, as well as the link element, which is bringing in external resources. If I peruse down a little bit, I can see that the rel attribute on A and area elements controls what kinds of links the elements create. The attribute's value must be a set of space-separated tokens. The allowed keywords and their meanings are defined below. It has no default value. If the attribute is omitted or if none of the values in the attribute are recognized by the user agent, the document has no particular relationship with the destination resource other than there being a hyperlink between the two. So what that's saying is there's no real default value, and if it's omitted, it's really not a big deal. It's there to add semantic value and information between these two linked resources. Now, it also talks about the keywords being defined a little bit below. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit to take a look at the different types of rel attribute values. Now, you'll notice from this table that we've got here, we have one column for the link element. We have another column for the A and area elements. And then we have the different types of values that we can add to the rel value. Now, I just want to go over a couple of these. I don't think we need to go through each and every single one of these. For example, we have style sheet. Notice that that's allowed on the link element to say, hey, this is an external resource. It's not allowed on the A and area. So not every value is allowed on all of them. We also have things like previous and next. Those are helpful when we're defining breadcrumbs. This is a link to the previous page. This is a link to the next page. We have things like no follow. That comes from blogging software that basically tells search engines and other user agents, I don't really want you to follow this link in terms of its content not being relative to the page. We also have things like help, icons, which again identify external resources, licensing to let it know that this link links out to legal or licensing information for this particular content. So again, there's a lot of additional information here that can help define the relationships between pages within your site and the resources that are used within your site. So if we go back into our Trails page, this time from the 03_11 directory, let's take a look at where we can put the rel attribute to use. The first thing I'll notice is on line 6, I have a link element, which is linking out to my main.css file. Now, if you guys have been authoring HTML content for any time at all, you've probably used this before, and you probably have used the rel attribute so often within it, you don't even notice it. But you'll notice at this point that it's missing. So if I go into my link element and add a rel attribute, I want to give it the rel attribute of style sheet. As I mentioned before, you've probably done this so often that it's just muscle memory. You don't even realize you're doing it. A lot of you guys might do what I do, which is just copy and paste it. But this is an extremely helpful attribute. And in fact, it's required on the link tag. So in this case, we're saying, hey, we're linking out to an external resource, and that resource is a style sheet. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save that. But of course, the rel attribute can do a lot more for us as well. If I scroll down into my article, if I go down to the footer of the article, about line 76 or so, I'll notice that this has been expanded a little bit, and I have a link to Dan's personal blog, which links out to danbikesalot.com. So this allows me to let user agents know that, hey, this link is linking out to some information about the author of this article. So if I go into the A or anchor element and give it a rel attribute, I can use the rel attribute of author to let it know that this page contains contact information or additional information about the author of this article. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now, I can also expand the meaning of other links on the page too. If I scroll down into the footer, I'll notice that I have a link here for the terms of use, which is a legal document. It's got a licensing information, And so because of that, I want to alert user agents to the fact that this page has licensing info on it for our company. So I can do that by, again, going into the A element and doing the rel attribute and using the rel attribute of license. So I'll go ahead and save that as well. Now, the rel attribute can do a lot of things for us in terms of working with search engines as well. And a lot of the values that it has picked up in the HTML5 specification really are sort of a response to existing practices within the world of blogging. So if I go up, for example, into the aside that holds our ad copy. So this might be rotational ad copy, and you might not really know who is going to be buying ads. They may be relevant to your site. They may be somebody you support, but they might also be somebody that you really don't support or that isn't extremely relevant. So a lot of times you don't want search engines to relate your page with the link that might go out to ad content at all. And so you can use the rel attribute to do that. If I go into the link here out to melsbikerrentals.com, I can add a rel attribute to that, and I can use the rel attribute of no follow. Now, no follow is basically telling search engines, don't follow this link and index it in terms of how it relates to our page. So essentially, search engines really won't relate this content at all. They won't follow this link out to see how it relates to yours, and it won't impact your search results at all. Now, you can use more than one rel attribute. In this case, we use no follow to tell search engines, hey, we don't really know who these people are. They shouldn't be associated with our page ranking or the type of content that we have on our page at all. But it's also helpful to let browser or user agents know that this is an external link too, meaning not part of your own domain. So I'm going to type in a space and then just type in external. You can have multiple rel values. You just want to separate them by using white space. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now we have identified this link as being an external link, a link external to our site. And we've also told search engines, don't follow this and associate it with our page because we're not really sure who these people are. All right, so by using the rel attribute, we've made a lot of our links a lot more descriptive. We've also established the relationship between our page and its linked resources, which is a really good thing. In some cases, as with our link to the CSS resource, the rel attribute is required. In others, such as the author's contact information, for example, the rel attribute simply provides us with an opportunity to provide semantically richer content, which can be used by any supporting user agent.